Hey everybody, welcome back to Over Here We Craft for Money. This is part 6 of our Back to Basics for Cricut Crafting Beginners. In today's video, we will be making the super popular, hot right now, first day of school, back to school sign. So let's jump into the supplies that you will need to make this project. All right, so the supplies that you are going to need if you're going to follow along with what I do in the video, you will need the Jot dry erase board from the Dollar Tree. You'll need various colors of permanent vinyl. That will depend on how many colors you want your back to school sign to have. You will need a cutting mat. Normally I would use a standard grip mat, but it was acting up, so I did use fresh light grip mats for all 5 colors that I chose to use in the project. You'll need transfer tape to move the vinyl from the carrier sheet onto the actual project board. You'll need a vinyl cutter or a pair of scissors. I used my cutter from Recollections, but you can absolutely use a pair of scissors to cut your vinyl. And you are going to need some form of a cutting machine. In my project, I am using my Cricut Air Explorer 2. Now let's jump into Design Space and get the project designed together. All right, so we are now in Cricut Design Space, and as you can see, they have tons of back to school signs. I am choosing this one because I love the fact that it comes with several embellishments. It also comes with a first day of school and a last day of school. So you might even want to consider bundling this for your customer. I'm going to take one of the examples and bring it closer to the blank sign I'm going to be working on so that I can get an idea of my outline. Now this creativity section is completely up to you, but for the purposes of this video, I just want to be able to show you how to take a design out of Cricut, customize it super easy, super fast, and make it your own so that you can sell it. The first thing that I'm going to do is change the background from black to yellow because they used a chalkboard. I am using dry erase, and plus I can't see that stuff on that black background, so I had to change that. The next thing that I'm going to do is I know that I am going to need to change these colors around and start to figure out what I want them to look like, but we'll do that in a little bit. Let's first change the name and add my niece's name, Milani. And I think that I'm going to leave that first day of school with the little cat whiskers because I think those are super cute. Now I'm going to use the crayon for the grade, and when you bring in the embellishments, they will go behind the image, so you will have to right click and bring them to the front. And here you just see me taking the calendar, the flower, and bringing those over, as well as the little measurement sign. And these are where my sister's going to be able to customize my information, particular for my niece. Now, because she's going to kindergarten, she's a little young to know what she want to be when she grow up. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that box, and we're going to create our own that says my favorite foods. I think it's important for my niece's new teachers to know what her favorite food is, and this helps them get to know her better. I don't want to just put it in there blank, so I'm going to use that little, I don't even know what to call that, I guess a starburst maybe, and bring that on over. And now that I have my outline, I don't need my sample anymore. And now it's about adjusting the images and getting everything centered. Again, I'll deal with colors in a moment because how I set up the colors of everything is going to make it so easy when it is time to transfer all 5 of these colors onto our sign. And the whole purpose of these signs is you really do want to make them bright and colorful, especially if you have a lot of variety of vinyl. So we're going to go ahead and add kindergarten to the crayon because that's the grade that she's going to. Now, when you make these, you can customize these to be any grade that your customer wants or that you want. Now, when we start looking at the little embellishments underneath each of those, the first one is I am, and that is where she's going to be able to write in her age. So all I did was right click and duplicate kindergarten and bring in the number 5. Again, we're going to deal with colors in a little bit, but for right now, we're just trying to get everything lined up and centered. Making it a little bit bigger so we can fit something in there. I'm just comparing it to the flower. And now we're gonna need to put a date in there. Now, I am a bit confused of when my sister said my niece starts school, so you'll see how I address that in a little bit later on in the video, as well as how tall she is, because she doesn't live here in Florida with me. I don't know how tall she is, so I did put a text out to my sister while I was making this, and she was at work, so hopefully I was hoping she would get back in touch with me by the time I was ready to go to print, but you'll see how I fixed that issue without having that information. And this actually could work for you too, because if you want to create this template yourself using Cricut Design Space, you can do that, and you can leave the sections blank, and that allows them to write it in. So I decided that I don't want to overwhelm the teacher with all of her favorite foods, and we're just going to go with the one that I know she loves more than anything, and that is a good French fry, honey. She is just like her auntie DJ. So we're going to change that to French fries and put that in the little starburst. And now our sign is almost ready. So now what we need to start doing is getting our colors together. I've already checked the wall to see what kind of vinyl I have. And so now we want to be able to start to group together the various colors. Now at this point, she still hasn't called me back. So I'm trying to kill a little bit more time, starting to change the colors of everything. And I knew I had primary colors over there on my permanent vinyl stash, but I also love the color orange. I don't know where orange and my love of it has come from recently, but every chance I get to infuse orange in a project, I find myself doing it. So luckily fall is coming, because honey, I'm about to jam out on the color orange. So all I'm doing now is just kind of mixing the colors up. This you can be completely creative with. You don't have to go with primary colors. It's just what I chose based on the vinyl that I had in stock. And it's permanent vinyl, and we'll see in a few minutes in the video where I got my vinyl from and how much I paid for it. So now we're just gonna go and clean up this a little bit more and start to get everything organized. She hasn't called back yet. And so now I'm thinking to myself, well, let me just go ahead and at least put all the colors together properly. So in order to make sure that I'm going to be able to put this project together properly on the dry erase board, the easiest spot that I can say is group it all together first. Get your sizing together, which I will make sure that I put in the comments. I'll pin to the comments so that if you go with this one, you will know the exact measurements that I used to make sure that it did not spill over and run into the border. So what I'm doing now is I'm clicking on the color blue and anything else that's going to be blue in the project, and I'm grouping those together and attaching them. This is going to give me a different color mat for each color that you see here, but it's going to allow me to cut them in the space that they are placed in on the screen. And that is the easiest way that I found to do this project. It can feel a little tedious, but trust me, the time you take to do this step and create registration marks based on your colors, the easier it's going to be to create the project, and less likely that you are going to make a mistake, because what mistakes cost us money. All right, we have everything attached now. So now we want to add a little bit more of the embellishments that came with this design. So we're adding some apples. We're going to add this cute little school bus and some more flowers, because how can you go wrong with flowers? And then, of course, this super, super cute embellishment butterfly at the end. And now I'm just going back to the colors and adding in the little embellishments that I added so that they all cut together. Now I could have cut them separately and had to lay them down separately, but again, I want to show you all a way to use registration marks to help line up your designs. And it's really simple. With a good piece of parchment paper, you're going to see how easy it is. So once you get all of your little embellishments in, you are going to be ready to go to print. You don't have to use all of those. You can always hide them and or delete them. At this point, my sister hasn't called back yet, and so I got the brilliant idea that it is a dry erase board, so I didn't have to put vinyl in those spaces. I could leave it open so that she could write all of that stuff for my niece herself. I wanted it to be a project that she was involved in too. And honestly, if you do this, that's probably what I would do for the customer. Just include a dry erase marker for them and allow them to write the information in. they'll love you for that, trust me. All right, so just a few little finishing touches on getting everything centered. We're gonna go ahead and delete those embellishments that we don't need. Now we're gonna group them together, double check our size of our dimensions of our dry erase board, and now it's time to add registration marks. So the key with a registration mark is that you're going to want to get you a shape in a square. You're going to want to color those based off the colors you're going to use. So the first thing that I did was put a gray box behind all of our writing just so that I could line it up and know exactly where the registration marks need to go. I did have to shrink the size a little bit, but again, those will be in the chat. So you want to take your two squares and you want to put them at the corner of the extension of the design. So in this case, if the design is 9.75, we're going to put the two red squares in the corners. And then we're going to highlight the red squares and every other item in the design that is red. And we're going to group those together and we're going to attach them. And then that is going to become our red layer with the registration marks. Once you do that, you're going to duplicate the registration marks. As you see, I'm going to duplicate them a few times to be ready for my next color. I leave the first design there and lay the next one on top of it and change the color. In this example, it put my blue ones behind my red and I didn't realize it, but it's okay. So once you click the registration mark, change it to the color that you want to attach it to. In this case, yellow, and then highlight everything else that needs to be cut in yellow. Put them together by attaching them and then moving them off to the side. I'm going to do the same thing once my yellow layer is together, attached, grouped, and then attached. I'm going to slide them off to the side and we're going to go to the next color. We're going to bring the next set of registration marks down, turn them orange, and now we're going to highlight that orange flower as well as the wording that is in orange, and now our last layer will be green. Now that we have all of our layers together, each with the registration marks, it's going to be so easy to lay them one on top of the other, and your registration marks are your guide. And it's going to make it so easy when it's time for me to put it back together. It won't even matter what order I do it in. So now we're all set to go. I know that I'm looking good over here. I'm just double checking one extra time. I brought you guys in closer so that you can see. And now our design is perfect. It is going to require 5 cutting mats because I chose 5 different colors. Now, I could have put them all together. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. We don't need the gray mat anymore. That was just our marker so we could set up our registration mark. So you can go ahead and delete the background. So now I'm going to have 5 different colored mats, as you can see. Let's go back over there. There you go. 5 different colors. And all I have to do now is lay my vinyl down on the mats and send it to the machine to cut. All right, so we've moved over to the crafting table and we are going to start cutting our 5 colors of our vinyl. Now, you guys might remember a couple weeks ago, I said I was in the Dollar Tree and they had all of their permanent vinyl on sale for 25 cents for the whole pack. And this is one of those projects where using that cheap Dollar Tree vinyl is actually perfect for, because it is going on a flat surface. You don't have to seal it. It's some really thin vinyl, but getting it for only 25 cents, I don't feel as guilty as I usually would feel with the amount of vinyl that I'm probably gonna waste showing you guys this technique. Now, there is a way to do this without wasting the extra vinyl. You could not make as many colors, number one. Number two, you could use the mat to cut in sections and hand place them. I just took the easy way out by using the whole sheet and the registration marks. And so I am going to waste some vinyl. You guys will see it. I could have salvaged it and put it back on the carrier sheet and used it for a future project, but I didn't. And I just started making it. So forgive me for that. Don't come for me in the chat, please. All right, so normally what I would do is use my standard grip mat, line it up at the top, and then brayer it down. And that worked for the first one, but I haven't cleaned my standard grip mats in a minute. And honey, they are making me pay because they were not wanting to lay down. Now the red went down with no problem. I'm using my little squeegee with the little foam or felt at the bottom of it, giving it a lot of heavy pressure. Sorry, the table is shaking. Now, when I get to the second one, that's the mat that was really giving me trouble, and it is not going to take that orange vinyl, especially because that vinyl's been rolled in that circle. So I realized at that point that if I try to cut this vinyl on that mat, it's going to come up and I'm going to have a problem. So I did not have any more standard grip mats besides the 12 by 24, and I didn't feel like tussling with that one. So what I do decide to do is get my light grip mat. So what I'll tell you is this: if you have a clean standard grip mat, that is the preferred mat you should use. But if you don't and you have a brand new, never used before light grip mat, it will hold the vinyl and you should be all right. You'll just need to braid it down real good like you see me doing there. So I just pulled out all 4 of my brand new light grip mats so that I can go ahead and get all the colors on. So now we're applying the yellow, and all I'm doing is sticking the vinyl down and using the brayer to get the little bubbles out. And again, this is not very expensive vinyl, y'all. So it's kind of easy, right, to squeegee the air bubbles out. If that had been some Caesar vinyl, I don't think it would have worked as quickly and as easily as this one is showing me and showing you that it did. So let's go ahead and get the blue one down. Now that blue one is Cricut permanent vinyl. It's a lot thicker, but you really can't tell it with the project. But again, very easy to squeegee out the air bubbles, and you just want to apply some heavy pressure when you put your vinyl down on these mats. Right, let's get this last one done. This is going to be our green color, and then we will head on over to the Cricut cutter. Now you can see that Dollar Tree, it says no good deed goes unpunished. They let me purchase it for 25 cents, but look at all that extra work I got to do to get those air bubbles out. It's all right though, it comes out and the project is still beautiful, but just those things to just keep in mind. Lots of heavy pressure, get that mat to hold the vinyl. And now we've got all 5 colors and we are ready to head on over to the Cricut. All right, we are back at the table, and now it's time to take our time and pull the vinyl up. This is 25-cent vinyl, so don't go rushing, because the last thing that you will want is for those letters to peel up and then you're not going to be able to see them. The cool part is our registration marks are working for us, and all we have to do now is weed out the little bit of the circles that are inside of the wording, my favorite food. Now, the little bit of the S came off of the today is, but I was able to fix that and get that laid down with no problems. So we'll just weed out the rest, and we'll do that for each of the 5 colors. I can say it weeded really easily, sometimes too easily. So again, take your time for those smaller pieces just to make sure nothing comes up. Once you do the first color, you can go ahead and move yourself on over to the next one. Here comes our blue one. There's a lot of vinyl. Again, I could have saved the bottom of this one at the carrier sheet, but I was already committed and in it. and that little design at the bottom required it, so it was nothing I could do about it. But again, the good part is the registration marks are there, and you're gonna see why that is the magic ingredient to this project. We're gonna move on over to the next one, the one that has her name and the apples. And again, registration mark. Let's get to our golden yellow. And our last one is our green. Let's go ahead and get that weeded. Got to be careful here again because we've got those small little letters. But as long as our registration marks stay put, we're going to be just fine with this project. All right, and now it's time to lay down our transfer tape. I am trying out a new one, and this one was okay, but I think I need to do a couple more projects before I could determine if I like it and if I'm gonna recommend it to you guys. But using the registration marks, I just lay down the first piece of the transfer tape on the first color that I'm going to use, and then I use my squeegee to just press it down and get all the air pockets out. And that is the first color. Now, when you do the project, it really doesn't matter which color you start with because those registration marks are going to save the day. All right, we've got the first color down. We squeegee it down really good. A tip here is to pull away from you when you are dealing with each color. This way it won't get stuck. Take a piece of parchment paper, put it down under the rest of the material so that it doesn't get stuck. Line up your registration marks and pull away from you. And then take your squeegee and just press it down with the soft side, smoothing as you go. Burnish it really, really good. And again, you want to pull away from you. That little butterfly was real disrespectful. So I burnished it again, and she still didn't want to come up. So I just went from the other direction, again, pulling away from me. Slide it off to the side and get your next color. Apply your parchment paper and line up your registration marks. So let's do the yellow next. Lay that right on top of one another. Burnish down the first top of it, flip it over. Pull the parchment paper away from you and then smooth it down, and we will have the third color already set up. And even though it's sped up, guys, it literally is just that easy. Burnish it really good. Pull away from you, leaving it flat on the table, and go to your next color. I lay it down, smooth it with my hand, just like that. And you can do this again and again and again, no matter how many colors you use. This parchment paper trick in between will save it from sticking and messing up your project. One more color to go. And as you can see, that's the same piece of parchment paper and same piece of transfer tape. Right? Lay that last layer together, smooth it over. And as you can see, when you're layering it down, you can see how you've lined it up. And if you've gotten any issues, you can correct them, but normally you won't. As long as you get your registration marks together, you're going to be fine. Burnish it down. This time with the last layer, I do a little extra pressure. I pull away from me. And now it's time to take the whole project over to the sign. There's our board. Now what I decided to do was lay it down, make sure I'm looking good, and then I just peeled away a couple of layers of the registration mark so that I can know exactly where to lay it down. Now I didn't have to do this because I didn't measure it fully, but I could have just laid it down and it would have been all set to go. So either way, you'll be fine. You can't mess it up at this point. Our part was getting everything on the same piece of transfer tape. which really wasn't so hard. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay that down. And even though it's slightly off, it's fine because I stretched out the blue registration mark a little too far to the left, and I didn't need to do that. But as you'll see, pull it back away from you and burnish it down onto the actual dry erase board. Give it a good scrub. Now, I'll be honest, I found some inconsistency with the Dollar Tree vinyl, and the color that gave me the hardest time during this project was that orange. Of course, it's the orange, right? The color I'm falling in love with for the fall. But in this case, what I would tell you, it is cheap vinyl. I'm not trying to convince you that it's high quality, but it works for the purposes of this project, and it just requires me to take my time. So if you go with the Dollar Tree vinyl, or even if you're going with a higher quality vinyl, but the wording has thin lines, squiggly lines, you're going to want to take your time because the letters can lift up. Even though it has adhesive on the bottom of the letter, it can still lift up. And if you just rip it up, you're going to mess it up. So what I did here, since the orange was giving me a hard time, I put parchment paper in between the dry erase board and the rest of the vinyl, and I started working on the bottom of the design and pulling it up the same way I did the top. Because I know that orange is going to give me problems, I figured I didn't want to have to start all over again and cut all this vinyl again. So I protected the top and just slowly worked my way to the top from the bottom of the design. I do apologize for the part that's a little bit off the camera, but you can see what it is that I'm doing. I'm just taking my time and pulling the vinyl away from me and using my fingers to keep the letters pressed down and pulling the vinyl with my other hand. Once the vinyl cures, which will be about 24 hours, nothing's going to come up on the sign. It's going to last, and I don't even have to seal it. So I'm just taking my time, pulling the letters up slowly but surely. They are coming off. And this project is just about done. My niece has her very first back to school sign. The only thing we need to do now is fix that letter I, because that orange vinyl, I told y'all it was disrespectful. But the good thing is I didn't pull it up too fast and lose it. All I had to do was go and get my little weeding tool, press it back down, and now it is time to remove my registration marks. And baby, she cute. She cute. Y'all already know. All right, money makers, I hope you enjoyed this week's project. Make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Check out the videos coming up next on the left, and make sure you tune back in for episode 7. Until the next one, bye everybody.